Hello everyone, it is Pious Future here. In this video today, we're going to be going over the question of is HEX haram? So I'm Muslim myself, I follow Islam, and among other religions as well, usury slash interest slash riba is considered haram, right? Or it's considered a sin to take part of it, to make money from it, and whatnot. So obviously in Islam, it's the same scenario. So we're going to be going over the question of is HEX haram, or is it the secret to creating multi-generational wealth in a halal way? So it's either the two, right? In my opinion, it's either the two. And so let's look into HEX.com outperforming every market in the world right now, how it is such a lucrative crypto, such a lucrative opportunity, and it's a very minimal effort opportunity, I would say, to generate wealth. So we're going to see if, is this haram or is this halal? What is going on here? So first things first, I just want to say this is not financial advice. Do your own research. And also, this is not religious advice. Do your own research. And what I mean by do your own research is do not go to any, gurus out there to ask about this. Now, you can always ask people and get an idea of stuff and, basically bounce a few ideas off of people that you think are smart and kind of form kind of an idea. But I really, really advise you to actually do your own research and read up on stuff that, actually has legit sources. Now, I'm not going to get into how you can do that kind of research. I'm sure you can do it if you came all the way out here. I'm going to be basically sharing my ideas and my opinion. I'm personally invested in HEX. I'm personally staked in HEX. And it is actually my number one investment vehicle. It's the only thing I invest in. I earn income just like anybody else from a business I have, and I take my business profits after I'm good with my family. After I'm good with my own expenses, I take whatever I have left, whatever I have available to invest, and I put it into HEX every month whenever I can. And that's what I do. Now, again, this is not religious advice either. So do your own research. And by what I mean by not religious advice, do your own research is, now there's a lot of Islamic scholars and there's a lot of people in the religious space that will not understand HEX, and that's okay, right? There's kind of a IQ chart that I saw the other day, which is basically showing the people with really low IQ. They see the number go up and they invest into HEX and they stake. And then there's also the really, really smart people, right? People with really high IQs, people who really understand the math behind HEX. I'm going to be making videos in the future, really getting into the math of HEX, the financial math and the equation behind it. That makes it what it is, and that's what makes it so successful. But there's going to be people that don't understand this. I got off topic there. So there's going to be really, really smart people that understand it, and that's why they're going to invest. They're going to say numbers going up, and they're going to invest. They're going to understand the math behind it. But there's also a large majority of people who are in the middle of that kind of IQ space, of that smart to not smart ratio, like middle area, right? In that little chart, if you were to think about a chart, in that middle area, and they just don't understand HEX to the point that makes them think that, interest equals haram, right? Interest equals riba, interest equals usury. But there's a couple different ways of going about interest, and what interest is, you need to basically research all these stuff. Let's get into it. So Reba/usury. Reba/usury is what is not permitted in our religion. In our book, in the Quran, we see that riba is illegal basically in our religion, and usury is illegal for good reason, right? And so we're going to get into that right now. This article I found on IslamicFinanceGuru.com is explaining it pretty well. Really don't know too much about this website, but I've done a lot of research I've done a lot of research on the subject before, and this article kind of sums it up in a pretty nice, neat manner. So let's get into it. So this is written by Ismail Mustafa, whoever you are, dude. Thanks for writing this. Good article. So what is riba, interest in Islam? Now, I don't like the fact that interest is in parentheses here, but whatever. Islamic finance definition series. Okay, so riba is an Arabic word meaning to increase or to exceed, meaning whenever you, let's say, lend money out to somebody, you give money. So in Islam, right, we can give somebody money, we can loan somebody money. You can give somebody, say, $100, and you'll be like, hey brother, just pay me back in a month. And then that person will not pay you interest or anything. They'll just give you $100 at the end of the month if that's what you guys negotiated on. Now, Islam also has very strict rules in terms of how you lend out money. So, for example, you need two witnesses at the time of lending it out, and also you need a written contract sort of thing to lend out the money. Now, I know from people that I know, and even my parents, even family, we don't really do this, right? We don't really do like a contract. We don't really write it on paper, but that is actually what you're supposed to do to keep things solidified and to keep things in a solid contract manner. Contracts always help. I'm a businessman myself. I'm an entrepreneur. We deal with all of our clients and all of my customers in a contract form, and contracts are the way to go, obviously. And that's why Allah, the Almighty, knows this, right? He knows more than all of us, and that's why He says that, is to put things into a contract form. And lend, if you're going to lend money out, you're going to lend somebody money, a friend, brother, a sister, a family member, whoever it might be, without interest, obviously, without expecting any profit from that. Do it in the right manner, do it in the right way that Allah has permitted you to do it. So yeah, riba is an Arabic word meaning to increase or to exceed. So yeah, when you're lending money, you cannot have an increase on that money, or you can't exceed it. So for example, what happens in traditional banking today is we can get a loan from the bank and we will pay the interest on that loan, right? Let's say I borrowed 10,000 and the interest rate is 5% per year. I would pay $10,500 to pay back that loan at the end of the year. If I'm just going to pay the interest that I have to pay by the end of the year, it's about $500, right? 5%. And so, yeah, you would pay the $500 interest, and you can continue being in debt of $10,000 every year if you just pay the interest, right? So it works out in something like that. But there's also another another way that banks do it is they basically, let's say you can't pay your interest. Now this is real riba. This is like some deep riba, right? Where you couldn't pay your loan, you couldn't pay the interest either, the $500, and now you have to pay fees and extra interest for all the money that you didn't pay. So now you have to pay an exceed amount on the existing interest that you guys already agreed on. Now this is also very haram, and it makes sense, right? This kind of stuff shouldn't be the way it works out. You shouldn't make money this way. It's such an unnatural and unethical and dirty way of making money, in my opinion. It's just it just sucks for the person that is getting that money. It sucks, and obviously the person shouldn't be getting that loan in the first place with interest, and we should be staying away from that kind of interest all the time. But in today's conditions, there's so much consumption, and there's overconsumption, in my opinion, that people always want, whether it's that new car, whether it's that new house. We always want, whether it's that new gaming console. We just want something all the time, and sometimes we don't have the money for it, and so we go into a credit card loan, or we go into a house loan, mortgage loan, right? You guys are familiar with all this stuff, and so we exceed on what our consumption should be, just because there's an opportunity to do that with a loan from a bank or from a different source, from a different middleman, right? So that's what riba means, to increase or to exceed. Riba is commonly translated to interest or usury in English, and is a charge for the use of another's money. It also includes unequal exchanges. So riba is commonly translated to interest or usury in English, and is a charge for the use of another's money. So when a bank lends you money, the interest they're charging you is basically what they're charging you for using their money. So let's say I borrowed $10,000 from the bank, and they gave me a 5%, let's say a 10% interest rate. A 10% interest rate, their fee for me borrowing that money and for me basically using their money is 10%, which is $1,000. So that's what they're charging me because I'm using their money. And that is basically what they're causing is riba, and me partaking in that, where that person that I took money from is basically me partaking in riba, because I'm basically being charged for the use of another's money. And it also includes unequal exchanges. So Say, for example, you want to sell an apple, right? So you want to sell an apple, you should be getting an apple's worth of money back or currency back. Or let's say at the time, let's say the two parties agree that you selling an apple or the worth of an apple is also the worth of a notebook, for example. I don't know, right? Then me giving you a notebook for your apple is considered an equal exchange, right? As long as the conditions are that this is what's agreed on, and this is a common notion that a notebook is equal to an apple, then we can do that. But let's say I wanted to pay you a pencil for your apple, and you're like, no, my apple is way more worth than that, and yeah, so that wouldn't work out, right? That would be wrong as well. So we wouldn't want to do that either. So for example, gold right now is like $17.50 US dollars per ounce. You wouldn't pay less than that, or you wouldn't pay more than that at the time of the exchange. So that explains that. An example of this would be taking a loan from someone who expects it to be repaid in addition to 5% per month on anything that has not been paid at the end of each month. So again, you take $10,000 of credit card debt, for example, right? And that $10,000 has a interest of 5% per month, so $500 per month on that $10,000. If I don't pay that $10,000 that I just borrowed in full amount, then I will be charged a 5% per month for that month, which is $500, which I need to pay. And I need to pay, most banking and most financial products will be like, you need to pay that 5%, or else you either go into default, or there's a couple of stuff that could play out, but you can even go into an exceeding amount of interest, which is like, since you didn't pay your 5%, now we're going to charge you 7.5% because you didn't meet the 5%. And then let's say you didn't meet the 7.5%, it's like, oh, now you have to pay us 10%. So there could be stuff like this in the contracts that you sign, or the banking terms that you agree to, which is even worse, right? It's basically squishing that little guy of all the pennies, all the money that he has to pay back the loan that he got. And so, yeah, this is where it just goes wrong, and this is where it's wrong, in my opinion. And it's obviously, this is where it's wrong in our religion. So, for example, you lend 100 for 1 month. At the end of that, you would repay 105 euros. So, yeah, that basically explains what I mean. Now, I'm kind of going over all of this to explain to you what riba is and what interest is, and what the Quran and what our religion defines riba as. So bear with me here, right? So what does Islam say about riba? The last verse of the Quran to be revealed was the verse on riba. Bukhari, the Quran and the Prophet, peace be upon him, were clearly against riba, obviously, right? Allah is not allowed to trade and has forbidden riba. So you cannot trade riba, which is like, you cannot trade in riba, or you cannot trade riba, which is like, you can't trade interest, right? You cannot trade that profit on lending somebody money, or being lent money. And Allah has forbidden riba, obviously. You who believe, beware of God, give up any outstanding dues from riba. If you are true believers, if you do not, then be warned of war from God and his messenger. So Allah says this in the Quran very, very clearly. Doing in riba, so basically partaking in riba is basically saying, I want war with God. God, astaghfirullah, but like, that's basically what you're saying when you partake in riba. So yeah, God is warning you. If you are partaking in this, then you are basically at war with God and his messenger, peace be upon him. So you who believe, do not consume riba, doubled and redoubled. Be mindful of God so that you may prosper. Very, very true. I can tell you this as a Muslim, whenever I would partake in riba, or whenever I would take interest in terms of like a loan from a bank, so type of thing, it just never works out. Like, God has always shown me personally that it never works out, and it always goes, I've always doubled or tripled my losses just because I took that riba. So you want to stay away from that as much as possible. And I know in today's climate it's quite hard, but this is what we're supposed to do, is what we're supposed to stay away from it, and for good reason, right? So let's go back here. Where were we? Yeah. Whatever you lend out in usury to gain value through other people's wealth will not increase in God's eyes, but whatever you give in charity in your desire for God's approval will earn multiple rewards. So do not lend out in usury and gain value through other people's demise and other people's wealth being depreciated by you taking more than what you lent out. And instead give to charity and give to those people who are in need. And that's how you can seek God's approval. Obviously, we all already know all this. The Prophet, peace be upon him, cursed the ones who took or gave riba. So you could take riba from a bank or from a institution or from a person, from something, and you can also give riba, right? So you can be that person that gains that interest and gains that money on top of money before lending out your money. Why is riba forbidden, right? So in short, riba is an exploitative arrangement that keeps the poor in precarious financial circumstances, as the poor are stuck with ever-growing debts, whilst the rich increase their wealth without creating any extra value. The way I look at this is you're basically, when you give out riba, or what the people that are giving out riba are stepping on the people that are taking that riba. They're just constantly squishing and squashing those people that are taking riba. So the really wealthy are getting wealthier, and the average normal person is getting poorer and poorer just because they are dabbling with these debts. The rich make money from their money, and the poor pay to use money they don't have, thereby cementing the gap between the rich and the poor. As you know, in today's date, there is a huge gap in between the rich and the poor in today's world. And that's because the rich make money from their money, and the poor pay to use money they don't have. Now, this is kind of contradicting to HEX, I know that, but they're making money from their money by giving it out to people. They're by lending it out to people. That's what this means. And basically the poor, what they're doing is using money that they don't have to pay for stuff that they want. And so this is all wrong and over-consuming, and it shouldn't be this way. And it's not just Islam that sees riba as a negative thing. Greek philosopher, whatever, is also against interest and saying basically the most hated sort of wealth getting, and with the greater reason, is usury, which makes a gain out of money itself, and it's not from the actual object of it. I could kind of debate on that, but we won't get into that. For money was intended to be used in exchange, but not to increase at interest. Therefore, of all modes of getting wealth, this is the most unnatural. We have previously written, that's pretty much it. Now, this is just telling about the modern day of riba and whatnot. So let's go over to HEX here. So hex.com, right? Now, we know what riba is now. We know what interest is, we know what usury is, in the sense that it was forbidden for us to be making money from this. Now, when we look at HEX, which is, so if you go to hex.com, this is the website we're at, it says HEX stakes average 40% interest a year. Where does this interest come from? That's what we need to ask. Who is paying this interest? And when you look, hex.com, or HEX as a cryptocurrency, is a smart contract on the Ethereum network. Now, pretty soon it's going to be on the Pulse chain network as well. And so it's basically a smart contract on the Ethereum network that pays 40% interest a year. Now, it is not the contract, or it is the contract that pays you, and it's not no other middleman. So there's no bank involved in this. There is no middleman. There's not a person that pays you this interest. This interest comes from you. It comes from inflation. So you're not getting 40% interest in US dollars, or what you would call today's currency, right? You're not getting any kind of currency of 40% interest. Instead, you're getting HEX in interest. So let's go to, give me a moment here. All right, so if we go to hexcalc.net, this website here, and we were to, let's say, stake 1,000 HEX for the maximum amount, right? 5,555. So 5,555. And let's just keep the price the same, which is currently 43 cents. And let's say we stake that, right? Now, this staking, first of all, the staking bonus right here, which you're getting 2,000. So basically triple whatever you put in. We put in 1,000, we get 3,000 total HEX at the end of our stake. This right here is coming from the contract. So you're minting it because you are longer pays better, right? So you're staking for longer than you're staking for the maximum amount. So you're getting awarded a 2,000 HEX. Now, again, who are you getting this money from? Who are you getting this HEX from? Sorry, because HEX isn't really a money. it can't be considered a currency right now because you can't really buy anything with it. I mean, yeah, you can kind of buy stuff with it, but it's not really like US dollars, for example, or a Canadian dollar, or it's not like a widely spread currency, right? But it is considered a cryptocurrency. Now, again, so there's no middleman, there's no bank, there's no financial institution that is giving you this yield, and you're not borrowing any money. And technically, what you're doing here is borrowing from your future self, because once you stake this 1,000 hex, you don't have it anymore. It's burnt. It's out of the supply of the hex, out of the blockchain, right? It's just deleted, and you mint the 1,000 plus 2,000 hex, so 3,000 hex total. Again, when you're 5,000 after 5,555 days has passed, and it's just you interacting with a contract. It is you interacting with your future self, saying, "Hey, look, I'm burning 1,000 hex, and in the future, the mathematical equation should give me an extra 2,000." That's just for your staking bonuses, right? That's where you're getting your hex from. Now, there's also what they call the interest, so the APY. And this mechanism right here, which is at a 5,555 stake of 1,000 hex, we would be getting 6,680 hex just from our interest alone from the 1,000 hex that we staked, because of a 43.9% APY. Now, this APY and this interest and whatnot is all calculated through a mathematical equation. Now, you can go to, if you search up hex, layman terms, the white paper, if you actually look into hex, you will see that all of this interest and all of this APY and whatnot is all calculated through a mathematical system. I'm going to be making videos of this later, but just for the sake of keeping this video a little shorter, I won't be. So yeah, your interest, the APY that you're earning, which is 43.9% at the current date, at the current time of the metrics that we set, is 43.9 because of the t-shares we have. Because when you stake 1,000 hex, you get awarded a total of 3,000 hex, and so you don't. I don't like the word getting awarded, because nobody's awarding this to you other than yourself. You're basically inflating the hex supply by yourself because you are taking action on a contract, on a smart contract on Ethereum, on the Ethereum blockchain. And so yeah, when you do the stake, you get 0.158 t-shares. Now, if you were to do just a 1 day stake, for example, you wouldn't be getting that many because you only have 1,000 hex. And currently the t-share rate is 18,883. So let's make this simpler, right? Let's do 6,300, about so, right? For 5,555 days. Now, actually, let's do 1 day first. So if we were to do 6,300 hex stake for 1 day, we would only be getting 0.333 t-shares. But if we were to do 5,555, so we would triple our investment because we would just be getting a staking bonus. We would be getting 1 whole t-share. And currently, 1 whole t-share is paying around a about a 5.78 hex per t-share. So 1 t-share is giving you 5.78 hex per day of having that t-share. And this t-share will disappear when you end your stake after 5,555 days. So you will lose this t-share, and the only way you can get another t-share at the time of ending your stake is to restake, and probably restake not just your principal, so not just the initial 6,300 hex you put in, but probably some of your interest as well. So probably a lot of your interest, if in 15 years, probably a lot of your interest you're gonna have to put back in to get this t-share to yield you the same amount of 5.78 hex per t-share. And the reason I say you're going to need to put your interest as well, and you can't get the same t-share with the same principal, is because this t-share rate is constantly going up. So I'm not going to show the chart for it right now. Actually, I'll show it. So yeah, I'll actually show you guys the chart here. So if we were to look at the t-share rate chart here, it's constantly increasing. So by 15 years, who knows what this number will be, and the amount to have a t-share, actually have 1 t-share, is going to be higher. So who knows what this will be. Again, this is all dependent on a bunch of, the hex is dynamic, right? So it's a dynamic contract, it's a dynamic mathematical equation. So that t-share will increase with the rate that it's going. I can tell you that as a fact. Anyways, what I'm trying to get at here is everything is done through a contract, and there's no middleman. There is no interest you're being lent out, and you're not lending out any interest. Whenever you're getting that interest that we're calling from HEX is from you staking and you minting new HEX. You're just minting new HEX for the sake of the time that you sacrificed. So you're sacrificing, if you sacrifice less than 5,555 days and instead just the 10 days, then the mathematical equation would give you a total of 19 HEX, right? So you'd only be getting a 11.23% APY. You'd only be minting 19 new HEX besides the 6,300 that you would mint again. So again, there's no middleman, right? There's nobody lending you out money, and there's nobody that you're lending money out to. Now, if you were to want to sell your HEX, you can go ahead and sell your HEX as a cryptocurrency for US dollars. And you can also sell your interest because you minted it, right? So think about this as like a Bitcoin miner, right? So let's say you are mining Bitcoin. I'm not sure if you ever obviously looked into Bitcoin mining, but when you mine Bitcoin, what Bitcoin miners do is they go and sell the mined Bitcoin. They don't go and sell their mining rig. So you need to think about T-shares as basically your mining rig for mining HEX using time, right? The way T-shares work, and the best way to have T-shares is to stake for as long as possible and stake the biggest amount of HEX possible for you, right? So one T-share is giving you, mining you basically. You got to think about it like as if it's mining you 5.78 HEX per T-share. So yeah, you need to think about T-shares as like a mining rig. So a Bitcoin miner wouldn't go and sell their mining rig, the mining rig that they spent, I don't know, like $10,000 on, and it's minting them, let's say 1 Bitcoin per day, right? They wouldn't go and sell at the end of the year their mining rig along with the inflation that they created, along with the Bitcoin that they created, along with the Bitcoin that they mined per se. If you don't know anything about Bitcoin mining, basically what these guys do is they work computers as proof of work. The computer is basically solving a bunch of equations and in that sense mining Bitcoin. So mining new Bitcoin. It's not like the Bitcoin is stored away somewhere that they're taking. They're actually just minting new inflation. They're minting new Bitcoin for the sake of the work that they did. With HEX, you're basically, for the amount that you waited, you're minting new HEX. You're minting inflation per se. And so yeah, you wouldn't want to go ahead and sell your mining rig that is mining you consistently new Bitcoins every day, new Bitcoins every year. You would go and sell the inflated amount that you created. And in HEX terms, this is what we're doing here as well. We're sacrificing our time, so locking up our HEX for a certain amount of time, and then minting new HEX. So here you would be minting a lot of HEX. So you would go ahead and sell the interest that you made, which is from, you minted new 42,000 worth of HEX, 42,000 amount of HEX, and then you'd go and sell this, and now you'd be left with your 6,300 principal, which you can again stake it for another 5,555 days. And if the APY and everything is the same, then you would be earning 43.9% APY. Now, obviously, HEX is dynamic, like I said, and all of this is bound to change. But we do know that with the mechanisms that I just mentioned, HEX is just accruing value and value and value, and it's just constantly going up. The chart is constantly going up and to the right. So you can see here, the yellow line here is the T-share amount. So back when in January 1st, when HEX first came out around, so you can actually get one T-share for 0.7, so 70 cents. So you could actually get one T-share for around 70 cents. So if you paid 70 cents, if you had 70 cents worth of HEX and you staked that, you would be getting 70 cents, or you would be getting one T-share. Whereas now you have to pay about 8,100 to have one T-share. And again, this is all just constantly going up and up and up to the right. It's just a mathematical equation that I will get into in later videos. But in short, again, there's no middleman. There's nobody issuing this interest. It's just a smart contract. It's you interacting with a smart contract. And who's holding your HEX? You're holding it on your own private key, on your own private wallet, right? So the wallet's keys are in your hands. There's no exchange that is providing this stake. for example, in crypto, there is liquidity pool providing, or like there's earning interest off liquidity pools. In my opinion, that's kind of risky territory for riba, because you're basically providing liquidity and then you're getting a percentage of the fees, or you're basically getting interest on the amount that you gave to the liquidity pool. Now, yeah, it could not be interest because you're only just earning a part of the fees that the liquidity provider is charging for the people that are transacting. So it could, you could say it's not interest, but in my opinion, it's a little stupid to me, because it's just like you're interacting with people at that point. You're giving, you're basically interacting with people. Here in HEX, you're not interacting with anybody. You're not interacting with anything other than the smart contract. There's no bank in between here. You're minting your own HEX for the amount of time that you are staking for, right? For the amount of HEX that you're putting into the system. Now obviously you don't need to stake your HEX. The reason we want to stake our HEX is because that's what makes the most sense in terms of generating a multi-generational wealth for you and your family, right? For your offsprings and for all the people that are going to come after you, is to have T-shares running and have HEX stakes running, so that you don't ever have to sell your principal. You don't ever have to touch your principal HEX. And in my opinion, let's say you stake 6,300 HEX, right? And minimum, this is not financial advice, but in my opinion, we're going to be way over $1,000 per HEX. So let's do the calculation here. So you can see here, if you were to not stake, right, you would only be getting $6.3 million worth of HEX, right? So if you were to just buy 6,300 HEX today for, say, $2,700 US and hold it for 5,555 days, you would be only having about $6.3 million worth of value. Now, cool. That's a lot of money. Don't get me wrong. But if you were to stake it and made it so that you cannot touch that HEX, you cannot, whether it's a dip or whether it's a pump, you cannot sell that HEX. You cannot do anything with it until your contract expires, which is 5,555 days. Your stake expires, and until you then when it expires, then you can get your HEX. But since you waited that long, and since you actually locked up your HEX for that long, you're also able to get an interest of 42,000 HEX. So you're able to mint new HEX, about 42,000 worth of HEX at the end of your stake, which will be worth $42 million, right? Now, in this scenario, what you would want to do is the smart thing to do, and what smart investors are doing, smart HEX investors, Hexicans are doing, is they are only selling this amount right here. So they're only selling the 42 million that they would mint, and then this amount they would go ahead and stake longer. Now, what you can do is go ahead and stake the 48,000 HEX total that you have for another 15 years if you don't need the money, or do whatever you want, right? It's completely up to you. It's your choices. It's you interacting with the contract, and there's no middleman here. And that's what the beauty of HEX is it's monetizing the time value of the value of time. So you're basically buying back your time this way. And it's just no harm for the environment, right? You're not harming the environment. So you could even maybe argue that Bitcoin mining is haram too, right? Because you're harming the environment. You're just doing proof of work for the sake of running a simulation on your computer, right? Whereas this, you're not really harming anything other than yourself in the short term, in the time matter of things, right? If you have a spare $2,709, let's say, and you're just staking it, there's no harm being done. Your money is just growing there because you're making it grow. You're literally just giving it time to grow in interest. So I hope that kind of makes sense. As always, I might be wrong about some stuff. Just leave a comment in terms of what I'm wrong. You can follow me on Twitter, Pious Future, and we can talk on there as well. But yeah, there is nothing, in my opinion, that is haram about this. And in fact, this is a really creation, a mind-blowing invention, I would say, financial invention, because it just takes the middleman out. It takes the banks out. And it's basically giving the power back to the human population, giving back to the actual people, to normal people, to mint their own inflation. Whereas a central bank is going to go do it anyways, right? A central bank is always going to mint new dollars and mint new US dollars and print as much as they need. And they're going to spend it wherever they see fit, right? They're going to go and spend billions of dollars on war. They're going to spend billions of dollars bombing here and there. I'm not going to get into too much into that, but They basically do whatever they want with their money. But here, we take the control, and you interact with the contract. You hold your keys, you hold your money, you hold your HEX, you hold your stakes, and there is nobody standing in your way. So yeah, I hope that all made sense. I'll leave some links in the description if you want to get started on HEX. Do look into it further. Go to hex.com. There's also a different link called hexnoob.com. So in there, you'll see a bunch of links for HEX to see what else is, what other info you need. You can find it on there. And yeah, I hope this video was helpful. Be sure to like the video, and I'll see you guys next time.